Hello, it's Reija and welcome to another video. Today I am finally going to be sharing with you my March reading wrap-up, which is incidentally also my Translate-a-thon reading wrap-up, because I hosted the round of Translate-a-thon in March. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, first I'm going to be talking about all of the comics and manga that I read, and then I'm going to be talking about the actual novels that I read, which were 2 this month. Starting with The Promised Neverland, volume 16 by Kaiju Shirai and Posuka Demisu, translated by Satsuki Yamashita. And this was one of the better volumes of the series. I kind of got a glimmer of hope that maybe the series is picking itself back up again. The tensions were high, there was some nice plot progression and world-building elements, and also the characters of Emma and Ray really got to shine, and there were some nice emphasis put on other side characters as well. So this was a pretty decent volume. It was still paced a bit fast, I just feel like these later volumes have just amped up the pace so much, and I just wish the author would slow down. Please just put on the brakes a bit, because the story, the core story that the author is telling is actually really interesting, but they don't allow it to breathe enough for my taste. So I ended up giving The Promised Neverland Volume 16 3.5 stars. Very good volume in terms of the other ones I've read recently, but I'm afraid that this series is going a little downhill for me. And a nice segue to downhill is Unnatural Volume 3 Rebirth by Mirka Andolfo, and I don't even know what to say, because it's been a long time since I've read a comic book or any type of story where I've been like, well, this is a hot garbage mess. Which this is. The first volume started off so promising, and then it has just been a roller coaster ride of plummeting down to the depths of darkness in terms of the plot getting more and more nonsensical. Nothing makes sense. What even are character motivations? Who are these characters? What are their personalities? We don't know, because the main character, her personality is basically crying and whining. The main love interest's character traits are basically angry shouting. And yeah, those are the character traits. It's it doesn't know whether it wants to be fantasy or whether it wants to be a dystopian science fiction. There are elements of both, none of which are established very well. The main villain is just... The main villain is basically a villain because she got stood up by a guy. Just let that sink in. And there's also this... I don't even know how to explain this without spoiling it. But honestly, I don't even know if there's anything to spoil, because this comic book story doesn't actually tell anything. It doesn't tell a story, it's just a series of connected events that amount to absolutely nothing. So I ended up giving this volume 1.5 stars, even that is being a bit generous. But the art is pretty. The art is super pretty. Mirka Andolfo really has a very nice and vivid style. Sometimes it gets a bit sloppy, but like for the most part the art is like really nice to look at. And even if I completely hated this story, I still find myself flipping through the pages because like her character designs and drawings are fantastic. But man, what a letdown. This was so bad. And speaking of bad, time to trash another Mirka Andolfo. This is her other work which recently came out, Mercy. This is a standalone graphic novel. I will tell you this, it is better than Unnatural. Barely. Basically this is a cosmic horror, historical science fiction fantasy. Once again, there's this muddling of genres. I would probably class it more as like an interdimensional science fiction story than magic, but there are some magical elements as well. And where to begin? Okay, so what's the story? Like basically a mysterious woman arrives into town that has had a mysterious mining accident a few years back, where a lot of people got killed, including the like town mayor. And this woman arrives in town, people start appearing up dead, and there is this little girl who thinks that this woman is her mother. And that's pretty much the story. In case some of you may want to pick this up and read it, I don't want to give too much away, but that's basically the story. It is cosmic horror, and also very like body horror-esque. There is indigenous and black characters in here. I wouldn't call it a representation because like, I mean, the author isn't doing any of these characters any favors. None of these characters are written with any sort of care or like dignity. So yeah, the art style is fantastic. Like once again, Mirka Andolfo, fantastic artist. Like, does she take a lot of license with costume design? Hell yes. There is nothing historical about any of the costumes. It is basically fantasy Victorian era. There are some, let's just say, unfortunate implications regarding some of the choices she makes with writing certain characters in here. For example, the only black female character is a prostitute, which certainly was a choice. Yeah, I don't even know really what to tell you about this. I didn't like it much. I gave it 2.5 stars, and after reading this, I decided that from now on, I am going to support Mirka Andolfo as an artist on projects where someone else handles the actual writing, because her writing in both Unnatural and Mercy is pretty friggin' atrocious. Like, she doesn't understand plotting, characterization, or pacing. It's just all over the place, and it's just like... No, I can't. Reading these two graphic novels almost back to back make me incredibly exhausted. I blame my whole reading month on these. Like, the lacklusterness of my whole reading month I blame on these two graphic novels, because Jesus, oh my god, these were bad. So, 2.5 stars. And then I have Francis by Lopucian. This is another Italian comic, but unlike the other two, this one was actually good. And it is a very self-contained, short standalone story about a witch who has this sort of darkness within herself. She is kind of abrasive, she is selfish, she is sort of lazy. And this story is basically her coming to terms with all of these faults within herself, all of these character flaws within herself, and deciding that, you know what, she's gonna own up to them and she's just gonna embrace who she is. And she does this with the help of this devious fox spirits who leads her to do all sorts of shenanigans. And what I liked about this is that reading about this sort of very flawed and kind of mean-spirited character might be incredibly frustrating, but I like that the other characters don't let her up on that. Like, her behavior doesn't get excused by the other characters, and there are actual consequences for it. So even if she wants to embrace herself, she has to realize that not everyone is going to be okay with her being a sort of shitty person. So it was a kind of a refreshing read. I gave it 3 stars. I'm not probably ever going to read the story as a whole again. It was a nice experience, but the art, oh my lord, the art in this is so beautiful. Like, every single page is a masterpiece. This is exactly the sort of art that I love. It is very sort of sketchy, charcoaly, watercolory, soft, and like, this is cottagecore in a frame, essentially, the art style. It was a lovely palette cleanser after the previous 2 graphic novels. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. Then I read The Route of Ice and Salt by José Luis Zarate, translated by David Bowles. And this is a sort of retelling of Dracula's voyage from Romania to Britain, but it is told from the point of view of the captain. And if you have read Dracula, we only ever hear about Dracula's voyage from like other characters. It is alluded to and it is told from another character's perspective. Essentially, it says that a ship was kind of came into the harbor, and the captain was strapped to the wheel of the ship and had a rosary, and then it talks about the captain's funeral, and that's the only thing you hear about it. So it is very interesting for like José Luis Zarate to give a voice to that mysterious captain. And this is a novel of queer desire, internalized homophobia, and internalized self-loathing. This is a main character who is so repressed both sexually and like he doesn't have self-love for himself. He even polices his own thoughts. Like, it is not enough that he refuses to act on his sexual desires, but he actually punishes himself for having thought of those desires in the first place. And it is a very interesting exploration of that feeling like something is fundamentally wrong with you, and feeling that you need to hide an essential part of who you are. I will say, the captain is not a good person. There are scenes where he is basically, he basically does this thing where he is compulsively heterosexual. Like he, like when they go to the harbors and stuff, and with his sailors, he still has to like put on this facade of heterosexuality, so he takes out pre-adolescent sex workers. So girl children, essentially. And so this is not a good person. But it is still such a fantastic character exploration, and the writing was incredibly beautiful. I think the translation was very evocative of the original, like, Spanish, like I don't know if I've ever told you, but like I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I have a rudimentary knowledge of Spanish because I took Spanish for 3 years in like high school and uni. So like I can sort of see how the translator has put together certain passages, and it's interesting. I love this aspect of like translation theory and such. Like if you have an understanding of both the source language and the language that the translation is being translated to, you usually get a pretty good picture of the flow of the language with the translation. I've had this happen with like Haruki Murakami translations, where I can see that the sentence structure is taken verbatim from Japanese, and that's why it doesn't flow very well. Anyway, I'm getting on a tangent. I like this. It was a really hard read, but I was engaged and interested the whole time. This is not for the faint of heart. Like, content warnings include implied bestiality, implied pedophilia, and sexual assault, murder. There's a lot in this. There's also the main character is haunted by memories of how his previous lover was essentially murdered by an angry mob. So there are scenes depicting his like memories of that situations. So please take that into account if you want to read this. This is an extremely beautiful and evocative and dreamlike reading experience in terms of prose, but the content is very dark, and you need to be in the right mindset when you if you want to read it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I gave this 4 stars. I really liked this book a lot. And the last thing that I read during the month of March was Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the last of the Brown Sisters romance trilogy, and I have previously very much enjoyed Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and Take a Hint, Dani Brown. Chloe Brown is my favorite Brown sister because I just relate to her a lot because of her like chronic illness and her abrasiveness and also her career in IT and stuff. So yeah, I relate to Chloe the most. And I like Dani, but I have to say that Act Your Age, Eve Brown may be my second favorite of the novels. So it goes number 1, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, then Act Your Age, Eve Brown, and then Take a Hint, Dani Brown. Because I just like the dynamic between Eve and her love interest. I like that this novel is, like, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it still talks about very thematically strong topics like fear of abandonment, trauma from parental abandonment, and also like this idea of living up to other people's expectations and also kind of making a path for yourself. The only thing I really didn't like about this book was the last third, because there is the standard romance miscommunication trope, which leads to the eventual third act romance breakup. And I just felt that in this case, it kind of diminished Chloe's and Dani's characters a bit, because the thing involves them. But the way it was handled and the way it gave Eve a chance to reclaim her own agency in the situation, I think was very good. But I just didn't like how that... I just don't like third act breakups, okay? Like, just let me have my fluff. Anyway, I gave Act Your Age Eve Brown 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Loved the, like, sheer fluff and, like, the romantic aspects. And I also, like, I'm a sucker for those types of male characters who are blunt and kind of speak their own mind, but are not assholes, you know? So basically the bare minimum of human decency. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. And there you have it. Those were all of the books that I read in the month of March. Have you read any of these books? If you have, tell me in the comments what you thought of them. And if you got this far, please leave me a wave emoji in honor of in honor of A Route of Ice and Salt. I can talk. And I will see you in another video very soon. Bye bye!